104.7 The Cave, KKLH, Marshfield, Springfield, a proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Now, it's time for Ned Talk.
Look out, Ned. You're going to have to get that heat rock back out because cooling off temperature's not going to be in the 100s.
Well, when the heat went down yesterday and it got cool on Saturday night, I thought, oh, gosh, where's my overcoat? I've got to get it.
Cool. I hate to tell you this, but you sound almost a little bit like Ron Hurst. He was talking about, you should see the look again. He kept saying on the weather last week, it's 100 degrees. It's not too terrible. Yes, it's terrible. It's horrible.
Don't hurt him, Nate.
It's unbearable.
Don't you ever say that again.
All right, I've been put in my place already.
Yeah.
Show's just begun. It's Ned Talk, your local live sports weather and sports show. I'm Joe Westen, Ned Reynolds, Alex Scott, Josh Roberts in today. So many places for us to start, but I wanted to throw you this big curveball because pickleball's on TV right now, and I wanted to ask you, have you ever seen anything like this where something's just like come out of nowhere and is a sport and people are watching it?
I'm sure there have been, during the course of the centuries, some sport that's exploded all of a sudden. But in the case of pickleball, this one may be around for quite a while because it does have a good level of exercise to it. It is not the same as tennis. It is the same as ping pong in a different classification. But you're getting a level of exercise in it, and people, that's what you need. You get them off their behinds and out, away from the video games and all that sort of foolishness.
Damn video games.
You're out there playing a good game, pickleball.
I have to say, I doubt if there are very many octogenarians playing video games, but...
No, there are not.
But, isn't that just the case, though, with sports, is that you've got this sport that was basically created to help older people be active and do things. And now these young whippersnappers who are all athletic come in and just make you feel bad.
They're going to ruin it.
They ruin it for all of the rest of us. Anyway, let's talk about other stuff. I think the place for us to start, since most of us in the room are baseball fans, is the trade deadline, which I understand is tomorrow.
No, it's Tuesday.
Okay, so Tuesday is 3 o'clock is the trade deadline. And the first, there's been some moves, but I think the first, kind of big one that really gets people's attention happened yesterday.
That's Max Scherzer going to the Texas Rangers. And there is some talk now that Justin Verlander will be leaving the New York Mets and going back to Houston again. And Houston, hey, bring him back. We'd love to have him. That could be considered a blockbuster, but the Los Angeles Dodgers, I really thought, were the ones who made the key deals in strengthening their team. That's not to say these guys won't help the other clubs that they went to in Texas. They will. But the Dodgers really needed some help bolstering their entire roster basis. Now, I was asked the question the other day, are you surprised that the Cardinals haven't made any deals yet? And in a way I am, because I thought that they would make a considerable number of deals the way it was talked rather early. But they aren't. They're waiting. What would be the reason in waiting? See if you can get the best deal and who's going to go elsewhere. I think they will probably do some trading, if not later today, then tomorrow. I doubt that they wait until the very deadline, but in regards to why they are waiting, see what team's going to get up with the best offer. We'll let some of these guys go, but hey, you want what you can get. Mm-hmm. And let's see if we can just wait them out. I think that's the reason. Would you, Alec, agree with that?
Yeah, the deadline really will make people move faster. When you're a few days out, you think, we don't need this guy that bad, do we? Or, that asking price is way too high. And then all of a sudden it becomes hey, it's now or never. And they're going to want to move. Sitting here last week, would have thought at least 1 or 2 deals would have happened for the Cardinals at this point, but they've held firm.
One, Genesis.
I guess, well, okay.
Which it doesn't count, really.
But at this point, they haven't really moved on from all these names we've been talking about, but another bad week. It's 6 losses in a row to the Cubs now. Josh, congratulations. All but buried. At this point, this being a losing season seems to be a foregone conclusion. I don't see them rallying back. I think people are going to get traded. But yeah, they're trying to bide their time and waiting, whether it's a bidding war or just knowing people are desperate when it's crunch time. They're going to wait, I'd say, either later today or tomorrow could be the big day.
You just nailed that exactly right, too, because in a sense, this is subliminal putting up the white flag. They haven't made a hasty deal. They're waiting because, hey, it's not going to benefit us any. Right now, we're way out of 14 games under 500 now with about 56 to go, something like that. That's a pretty monumental challenge. So let's just wait them out. They'll come to us.
Well, they could lose 100 games this year. It's possible for them to do that.
I don't think that'll happen because the 14 games, I think, would negate that. But the way they are playing right now, and with the luck being what it was and what it is, I think they'll probably end up 72-90 or something. It wouldn't be that. It would be.
72-90.
The math there.
Yeah, 162.
Yeah, that was right.
Yeah, it's 72-90.
That's
somewhere
hard,
around.
guys.
The way we talk about sports, we don't know math.
A hush fell over the room.
This is
mental
not
math.
a mathematics show.
I kind of feel like the problem with what they're doing is they may wait. They may be past the point where they could get anything that could help them in the future to the extent that maybe they want, because they're waiting. If what you're saying is right, that they're waiting to see how it all plays out and who's left, then theoretically the best options are gone.
Except that I think they would meet a challenge. If somebody were to offer, hey, this is an inner working. They know what the other deals are. They have the internet and they have the telephones and so forth and so on. They know who's offering what and so forth. That all figures into the mix. So whatever happens is not going to come as a major surprise.
Well, they're a couple of steps up on the Royals. They don't have internet or phone in their building right now. Trying to work on that to get that
They
better.
got a lot of pine tar.
One of the things that's kind of gone back and forth over the last week, Arenado said that he would waive his no-trade clause to go play for the Dodgers. The Dodgers expressed some major interest in him. And then the Cardinals firmly came out this week and said, nope, not trading him. Do you believe that, or do you think it's one of those, let's see how much we can get for him. Let's just bump the price up a little bit this way?
Maybe a combination of both.
Yeah.
But I don't think that the Cardinals ever came to him and said, will you waive it? I don't think that happened, Joe. What they did say, or somebody, maybe Arenado himself said, there is one team that I might play for if I'm traded to, and that's the Dodgers. I would play for them. He didn't say he would waive, though. It was just a hint that he might. Well, you don't want to trade away just like Shohei Ohtani. Was there ever a chance he's going to leave the Angels? Probably not.
Not while they're winning.
No, you're going to lose your fan base and everything else if that happens. There's your big star. Arenado is certainly a star. He and Goldschmidt are. Now, we'll amend that by saying next year, if this happens to the Cardinals, and I know Cardinals fans are saying, God forbid, but if this were to happen to the Cardinals next year, I promise you Goldschmidt would be gone because they can get a ransom for him. He's a free agent next year, and it would happen, but not this year. No, they're your cornerstones. You've got to keep them.
Let's switch gears to go to talk to our good friend Josh Roberts, who's the Cubs fan in the room. Now, the Cubs look like that they were going to be a seller.
Oh, yeah.
Cody Bellinger, name that's up for a lot of teams, want him. The New York Yankees want him. A lot of other teams would like to have him in their lineup. But they have played extremely well over the last week or so. They've,
Eight in a row now.
Yeah.
8 in a row.
We're six of them.
Yeah, Cardinals are 6. That's right.
Thank you, St. Louis.
Oof.
So what do you think of that?
I hope that they don't get rid of Bellinger. I mean, I don't know if they can make enough of a push to even be a playoff team this year, but I just feel like there's no reason for the Cubs to sell their players. They're not going to get – I don't feel like they're going to get somebody better than him right now. So I think they should just stick to the course and just play out the season. And, you know, like I've said, I say this all the time, there's no pressure on the Cubs to win a World Series.
The schizophrenic National League Central.
Oh, yeah.
When we were talking about this, when we first started talking about trade deadline, which was about 3 weeks ago, every team was hovering right around the 500 mark. And now you've got 3 teams in that division with winning records and a realistic possibility that, you know, well, they're 12 games under 500. They're not going to come back. But the Cubs are 2 over 500. They're playing better baseball. The Reds, I think they're the real deal. Whether they have the maturity to go in for the long haul, that's what remains to be seen. and Milwaukee, who Ned has said from the very beginning, the class of the division. But we're seeing that division kind of shake itself out there.
Mm-hmm. You take a look, the Brewers are probably the best team, and they're not really very good. They have a punchless offense, although they did bring in Santana the other day, and he's only 37 years old but can still hit the ball, but he can play first base and play it very well. When you have Rudy Tellez, who is up and down and mostly down, you want to have somebody more consistent. But, the Brewers can play, and the Cardinals do have several series with them left. The Cubs, I wouldn't call them out of the playoffs, but they're not going to stay that hot. They will cool off. However, you can cool off in the Central Division and still be very much in contention because it is so close.
Here's the huge anomaly with the Cubs, and I mentioned this a couple of times.
Yeah.
The run
differential's
they're
huge.
plus 60 right now.
Yeah, it's huge.
That just tells you something about the team, that they're losing close games and then they're winning in a lot of blowout games. Mm-hmm. So that means, one, that they have some pitching and they also have some offense. So, Ned, I'm not going to sell on the Cubs yet.
No, don't, because they could somehow squeeze in there. It would be something of a miracle if they did, but it is possible.
How many games behind Milwaukee are they?
They are 3.5 back. I mean, that's
Close.
a weekend.
Yeah,
that's a
close.
weekend. You can make that up.
They
just need to play the Cardinals more.
The Cubs and Brewers still have a number of series remaining, too.
Yeah.
Well, when the top team in the division goes 5-5 over the last 10, and then you're looking at Cincinnati, they played a good week, 7-3, and then the Cubs 9-1, and they made up a lot of ground this week.
Yeah. But we talk about this division, though. It's a good story for the Cubs, and the Reds and the Brewers are competing as well, but I think everyone's competing to be the worst team of the best that are left in the playoffs. Right. I've felt this about even going into the season, where what St. Louis's prospects are, and I feel similarly for the other teams in the Central. If you get in, congratulations. That's a big thing. A division title is all well and good. Enjoy getting bumped in the first round, because that's probably what all these teams are destined for.
Play the Dodgers or...
Right now, potentially the top wild card team in the NL is going to be finishing with a better record than what the NL Central winner is going to.
Right.
Because they're stuck in a division where either the Dodgers or the Braves, who I think are the class of Major League Baseball right now.
Heavens. They're the best team. They are the best team without question.
Yeah. What do the Royals have that they can offer teams? I mean, I've heard talk that the Yankees are in the market for Salvador Perez.
He would help them on a short-term basis, but in terms of young players, Bobby Witt Jr., but he's not going to go. Or the kid who's out for the year now, I forgot.
Nobody's going to trade for him.
No, the guy playing first base. No, anyway, they do have young talent. As a matter of fact, this week we're going to see some of that young talent when Northwest Arkansas comes in here to play the Springfield Cardinals. Much of their talent is at the lower level. However, I saw a description of the Royals over the weekend in reading teams that are supposedly improving and trying to get better. Well, the Royals have been rebuilding, but they started their rebuilding program 5 years ago, and now they are worse than what they have been, or at a lower level. So, who's directing this attack, and where's it going, and what kind of players are you getting in there? Well, you've got to make very judicious moves, which is, I think, one of the reasons why the Cardinals are waiting here before making a deal. They will make some deals, but who are they going to bring in, and what effect is it going to have?
Is there any veterans that are with the Royals right now that you could see moving over to another team?
Only one, Zach Greinke, and he's had such a tough year that teams would not be willing to give up a whole lot to get him. So the answer is really no.
What if a team came in, bought out Patrick Mahomes' ownership share, and let him buy into their team for the publicity? There's your trade.
Why not?
I was like, if you're a team in a small market, convince Mahomes. That'll bring in some media buzz.
Yep, that's true.
Well, what other names do you think are going to move here, Ned? Who look into your crystal ball? Who do you see going
in overall?
Yeah,
in the National American League, really difficult to say because you don't know what's being offered for them. I do see in the Cardinals' case, who we follow for the most part, I see Nolan Gorman as a possibility, not one they want to give up. But Dylan Carlson, I do see going. Tommy Edmonds, I love Tommy Edmonds, but he's been out of action for much of this season, hand injury and so forth. I see him perhaps going. I do see the two pitchers, Flaherty and Montgomery. I see both of them going, which is kind of strange because that's what the Cardinals need is pitchers. But these guys are both going to be free agents, and I really feel like they both have said maybe subliminally that they don't want to be, or that they're not anxious to be part of the Cardinals system. So they'll entertain whatever free agent offer comes along. That's not to say the Cardinals can't re-sign them. They can, but will they be willing to re-sign them at their price?
I saw their closer was definitely on the list of guys that they said, yes, we're going to move him.
Well, he is also. Yeah, you're talking about Hicks. And he is very much a coveted property because he throws so doggone hard, and he, in fact, has improved his level of consistency.
What do you want,
he would be.
If you're sitting in the front office of St. Louis, and I think I ask you this every week, what do you want to get in return for these guys? Do you want to get Double-A talent? Do you want to get Major League ready talent? Do you want to get just guys that are prospects in the lower levels of minor league baseball? What are you looking for?
I would look for Double-A or Triple-A level. I wouldn't necessarily look for a major league because they already have some key major league figures there. But I would look for guys who have excelled in the minor leagues, especially Triple-A, but Double-A, yes, would be strongly considered. Who do the Cardinals have in their Double-A system? Well, they have two right now, and one is Victor Scott, who plays center field, and the other is Tink Hence. But are they ready for big league play yet? Are they ready for Triple-A play yet? That all figures into the mix, and that's where the scouts play such an important role because it's their opinion. All those guys, every single Springfield Cardinals game, there are major league scouts there. Every single one of them.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
And that is the case with everybody. These scouts know fully well what they're looking for. And when you see circumstances of a player who doesn't have a very good record being picked up and traded and so forth, that's because the scouts see things in those players who we don't see. It's a trained eye that really can pick out the intangibles.
When we come back, we'll talk a little more about baseball, and I'm sure we'll turn our attention to the Chiefs at some point. It's Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave.
You're listening to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, part of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network. Back to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, a proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
Here we are doing Ned Talk, your local live sports talk show. Ned Reynolds, Alex Scott, Josh Roberts, myself, Joe Westen. We're talking baseball trade deadline. I think the next question that I wanted to ask you, Ned, about the baseball trade deadline is I asked you to be the general manager in the last segment. I'll ask all three of you guys this question. Now you're the manager. What are you going to do for the rest? You've got a free hand. What are you going to do for the rest of the season? Are you going to try playing these young guys and see what they can do from here on out and get kind of an extended spring training and seeing what these guys can maybe bring to the club next year?
It depends on the position and the looks at what you're trying to improve. I think the Cardinals do that with Mason Wynn. I think he will come up. When remains to be seen. I would suspect they'll keep him down till the end of Memphis season, which would be first week in September. It would be second week in September. They go an extra week now. But I think he comes up, and they will bring up others. But, Joe, a lot of it depends. The Cardinals just need to look at their overall lineup and see what has been successful for them and what hasn't. Obviously, pitching needs an upgrade, but there are other levels of their attack, too, that need to be changed. Excuse me a second. They have not come through consistently in their batting order. You've seen circumstances in which in the past, key individuals have come up in certain circumstances, especially late in the game, and come through with big hits. Not happening now. They have failed in a number of circumstances. You've got to retune your order. The athletes are there. The mix is not. And in baseball, your chemistry is so important as to how you operate. Case in point, Nolan Arenado said the other day when it was finally determined that he's not going anywhere, he's going to stay here, we have to get a whole lot better. Can we win the rest of the season? And he didn't say yes. He said maybe. and maybe not. He's not confident of what they have.
Isn't that funny how cyclical that can be in baseball? You'll see a team that gets a lot of big hits, wins big games, and they have just this really great season. They've got a lot of really good pieces, and then they come back the next year, and they do a little tweaking around the edges, maybe nothing major changes, and they just don't get those big hits. The ball just doesn't fall in for them.
It's the rhythm and chemistry of baseball, and it's what's called baseball. That's the way.
Right.
I got to thinking the other night when Tauchman made that great catch in center field. Oh, the Cardinals are wailing and we should have won the game. Well, they should have. But how many times in the last 15 or 20 years have the Cardinals won games like that? Many more than they've lost. It's a rhythm. Everything comes back at you at some juncture.
On Friday night, I stayed up way too late watching the Yankees and the Orioles. And the reason why I bring this up, other than I'm a Yankees fan, is that I was very impressed with the way Baltimore played defensively. There was opportunities for the Yankees to win that game with big hits, and the Orioles frankly made 4 outstanding fielding plays that saved multiple runs that could have won that game for the Yankees. And that seemed to be kind of the way the Cardinals went a few years ago. They had a really shaky defense, and then they said, let's shore this up. They did that, and then that's when they kind of turned it around. What do you see the Cardinals doing in the offseason? Are they going to look at young talent? Are they going to try to sign free agents? What, again, going back to the general manager seat, what do you see?
Well, depending on who they lose in free agency, a lot of it has to do with the personnel on your team. The pitching staff needs upgrading, but they do have some of those upgrades who are there now. I like Flaherty and I like Montgomery. They have been inconsistent this year, but so has the whole team. So it may be more of a psychological deprivation. However, if those guys don't stay, and I have a feeling neither one of them will, then, in fact, you have to look at your younger talent, number one, and you certainly have to make a deal for a stopper. They don't have that stopper. Adam Wainwright will be gone. He won't be around. You have to have an individual who will come in there and be able to, at least every 3 or 4 games, hey, here's our guy. We've got him coming in here. It's certainly not Miles Michaelis.
I tell you somebody that might be on the market. There's a possibility Garrett Cole could be on the market. He could opt out.
If Garrett Cole is there, get him over here now. All-America UCLA, a guy who has proven himself with the Pirates and other clubs, with the Yankees now. Guys, he's what's his record now? 10-3 or 11?
I think he's 9-2. He pitched lights out on Friday, and they wasted the performance. They just couldn't score any runs.
He is a stopper. He's a guy you would get.
Yeah,
Alec, I think you'd agree with that.
Statistically, the best pitcher in baseball right now.
You got Garrett Cole, Aaron Nola is a name that's been thrown out that could be.
See him leave the Phillies.
Yeah, it's like that's a name. I've seen a lot of Cardinals fans saying, hey, this offseason, it's going to have to be probably a combination of some veteran signings and looking at the young talent, because there's a lot of holes in the Cardinal rotation and bullpen.
Let me ask you this, though. I ask everybody, you're in the manager seat right now. Do you blow it up as quickly as you possibly can? Do you go after, Wednesday, you go, okay, we're going to go more days off for Goldschmidt and Arenado. We're going to try to get some of these young guys in, and we're going to see what they can do.
I think I would not Goldschmidt and Arenado just because of who they are. I don't think that would sit well with the kind of players they are. I think that would be a fast-track way to get them to want to look outside. If you keep Arenado and Goldschmidt, you're telling the team and the fan base next year we're going to be back. If you don't believe that, move on from them now. Get what you can and then start the rebuild. But I don't think they want to do that. So if you have guys of their caliber, they got to keep playing. Now, as far as the rest of the team, it's hard for me to say too much because I don't know who's going to be on the team in 72 hours and who's not. But, why? It's my opinion, why not get Mason Wynn up here? Let him start. I've seen enough of the Paul DeJong experiment to know that streaky bat, solid defense. Let's see if Mason Wynn can match that and start getting some practice in. Keep playing Walker, keep playing Gorman, keep playing Newt Barr, Donovan, and let the young guys go. But we already have a lot of young guys going right now, so it's going to be a matter of who's here.
Let me ask you this question. I know my level of frustration. What is your level of frustration not knowing what your team's going to look like on Wednesday?
I don't know if it's much frustration for me at this point, just because I've been frustrated
Or are you excited?
all year long. So it's almost the inverse. Is at this point I'm saying, okay, this is our season. This is not what we wanted. I'm anxious to see now. It's like, well, this is the last gasp of what could be good news for us for the rest of the way. Is let's see what we recoup for future seasons. So I'm not excited to see some guys I might like go, but I am excited to see what we can maybe pull off to give us hope for a future season, because at this point, this year is gone.
I think Alec just made a very, very good point. You're a lot of Cardinals faithful, and, of course, there are millions of them in the area. Well, wait till next year. I'm not sure you want to wait till next year, because it isn't necessarily a rosy picture. This could carry on. Our friend who used to be on the show, and while Mr. John Oliver, has not been with us for quite a while in terms of being on the show. He's with us, but he made a cogent comment last year on this show where he said, guys, the Cardinals are built, and you guys will remember this too, they're built to make the first round of the playoffs, and that's it. Mm-hmm. They're not built for a championship run. That's not the way they're constructed. They don't have to, because the fans are always there, which is interesting because it's gone quite a few steps below that this year with a really kind of for a Cardinals team, catastrophic circumstance. Will they be back next year? They will probably be better next year, but is there reason to believe that they're going to be a challenger next year? Well, optimism will say, yeah, we've got Arenado and Goldschmidt and all these other people. And no, not necessarily will they repeat. It's an odd circumstance right now.
Bleacher Report is now saying that the Rays, Rangers, and Marlins are all calling on Jordan Hicks, Jordan Montgomery, and Jack Flaherty, and the Yankees have called in on, the story disappeared on me, Dylan Carlson and Jordan Hicks. So there you go. There's some teams looking in on what the Cardinals. So you could see some big names moving out of that Cardinal lineup.
And again, as we talked earlier, it depends. The reason they're waiting now is to see who has the best offer.
Right. What's the best deal?
Yeah, that's Jordan Hicks. Who do you think is really? You take Goldschmidt and Arenado off the table. Who's the biggest chip that they have right now?
I would put Hicks in that category because he is young and because he can throw so hard. He's limited in the number of innings he's going to be able to pitch. He's a reliever, but they do have him there. I'll tell you, Jordan Montgomery fits that deal pretty good. I would say Flaherty because Flaherty does throw hard, but Flaherty hasn't shown a level of anything beyond the fifth or sixth inning. Montgomery's a little bit more consistent than that. But of those three, 1, 2, 3, I would go Hicks.
You're trading Joe Hickman.
Trading Joe Hickman, yeah.
So who could they get for Joe Hickman this year? And is Tony Beeson available?
And Beeson, somebody to be named later. I would get Hicks. I would put Montgomery and Flaherty 1, 2, 3.
Pitchers. And that's what teams are looking for. I know teams are looking for bats, too. I know the Yankees are looking for a bat. I know there's a lot of teams out there looking for bats right now that could be added to lineups. I want to go to this story really quickly because I found it really interesting. Alec and I worked together, and Alec came in the other day and goes, "Did you see all the Cardinal drama? Describe what happened the other night."
Yeah, so first inning, Michaelis pitching. He throws one, and Ian Happ takes a big swing, and the back swing hits Contreras on the head, draws blood immediately, and not like, oh, he's bleeding a little bit, like hand to head comes up, red palm. Like, it was pretty bad. And, they pull him from the game, and then, of course, 2 pitches later, Michaelis hits Ian Happ. It wasn't at the head. It was right at the torso.
It was a meatball that
and it was not thrown very hard.
And
it was not thrown hard. It wasn't a statement hit. It was I'm just going to hit you with this.
Well, so to me, 100% of pitchers do that. If you get the capture like that, your pitcher's going to back you up. Umpires come together and eject Michaelis for it, which to me seems out of precedent for what I felt warnings would come, and that would hopefully be the end of it. But, it's a tough thing for me because on the one hand, if the batter charges the mound and hits the pitcher with a bat, that's assault. Meanwhile, if the pitcher throws a ball at the batter, it's not. So, I understand wanting to potentially stop activity like that, but they haven't really come out and said they want to do that. It's just that all of a sudden trying to set a precedent and make an example of Michaelis was what I was seeing. Because, again, I think every single pitcher in baseball would have done the exact same thing.
Alec, I don't think there's any arguing with what you say. And why was there no warning? That's totally unprecedented. Now, what we don't know and what we were unable to hear is the umpires did that, I think, for a reason. I think what was going on was Cubs bench, Cardinals bench were hollering at each other. I think there was a lot of animosity. There always is with the Cardinals and the Cubs. Doesn't matter who's playing who the personnel are. They don't like each other. And the chirping that was going on, I think the umpire said we better, to use Barney Fife, nip it in the bud.
Nip it in the bud. Okay. We come back, we'll talk a little bit about, I got one more baseball subject for us to touch on, and then we'll get to the Chiefs. I promise. It's Ned Talk.
You're listening to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, part of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network. Back to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, a proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
I love these little stories that come across that make you kind of scratch your head and go, what exactly is going on? And there was a story that came across that over the last couple of days, Major League Baseball attendance up 9%, and yesterday was the biggest Saturday attendance with average crowd size across baseball at 38,000, biggest average attendance since 2013. But the TV ratings continue to go down, but people still love to go to the ballpark and see a game.
Oh, yeah. That's what it's all about.
There's no other experience in sports like it.
Well, we make that emphasis when we're doing Springfield Cardinals baseball. Hey, it's great. Put them on the air, give people an opportunity to see it, but it's much better. It always is much better when you're attending the game. You see it in a panoramic sense. That's the same with football. Football, you can really see a whole lot better in some cases on TV than you can in person, but there's nothing like being there. Hockey, in person. Baseball, in person. Basketball, in person. You've got to be there.
Yeah, so it's a great story. I hope that baseball is able to build on this after years. And, of course, your favorite commissioner got upped for another 4 or 5 years. So
let's see, he's good through the 2028 season.
So, well, he's got that to put on his resume, so that's good news. So let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs a little bit. They still do not have a contract with their defensive lineman. What do you think? Do you think he's going to get signed or not?
I'm going to tell you a story that Danon Hughes told us earlier this week. We posed that question. He said, do you think we see Chris Jones in camp? He said, boys, let me tell you about my rookie year with the Chiefs. Danon was All-America at Iowa, and he comes in, and he's going to play for the Kansas City Chiefs. He said, we had a holdout that year on our team, a guy named Neil Smith. Now think about this. Neil Smith is all-pro, offensive lineman. I mean, he is the core of their line. And he held out. And I think back then they had 6 exhibition games, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure.
Gosh.
It may have been 4, but I don't remember, to be honest with you. But whatever it is, he missed all of them. Every one of the preseason games. 3 days before the regular season was to start, Neil Smith came in, signed his contract, and started the opening game. And Danon says, I'm a rookie. What is this? He's missed the entire training camp, and he's the starter? What kind of an organization is this? He said, turns out that's the way it always is with the veteran pros. Changed his mind completely.
So you do believe they'll get it done?
Oh, heavens, yes. Of course they will. First of all, Chris Jones would be sacrificing something like, is it $15, $16, $17 million a year, because he can't play for anybody else. He has to play for the Chiefs. He's not going to sit out. He probably will re-sign with the Chiefs. If they don't sign it now, then maybe at the end of the season they'll get him. But again, he's going to be a Chief. Don't forget about that. He will play.
Wait, let's talk about the injuries, because they've had a couple of little ding-ups here as they entered the training camp. Tony, a guy that they looked like they were going to count on, and we talked about this on air last week. I said he's already injured, and Ned's like, first day of camp? I mean, it just began like 5 minutes ago, and he's already injured. How big a deal or no big deal?
Well, in his case, he's had surgery.
Yeah.
To have the meniscus cleaned out, which is one from which you can recover pretty quickly. I'd love to tell the story of DeAndre Smith of the Missouri State Bears, who had meniscus surgery on a Sunday and played the next Saturday.
Oh, wow.
That can happen. But the fact is, Kadarius Toney is injury prone. The New York Giants fans are chirping about, you got him, you want him, you wanted him, you got him now. He was always injured for the Giants. He may have that type of body that's going to produce injuries. Does it affect the Chiefs? You bet, because he's an outstanding receiver. But we'll see how serious it all is and how long he can continue.
And, of course, Isaiah Pacheco is still a little banged up from last year. He says that he will be ready to start the season. And now that we're kind of in camp and some of the free agent talk has kind of died away, I mean, this is the Chiefs. This is what they're going to look like. I don't really foresee them making any major moves. Do you?
Not with their starting lineup, Alec. I think you'd agree with that.
Yeah, this is what it's going to look like. Jones will slot in there eventually as well. This is the team. There's still some pieces out there. You wouldn't be shocked if they had a veteran here or there as injuries potentially happen in camp. Hopefully nothing too serious. But this is what the roster is going to look like. Now, as far as Jones goes, I would not be shocked if they get a deal done. He plays this year, and then he's had a lot of success in Kansas City, and eventually players want to get both money and success in the league. And if he has enough success, he might chase the money. He might go somewhere where the Chiefs can't afford to match just because, at the very least, he's got 2 Super Bowl rings already. Why not go cash in as much as you can? So maybe last year with Jones, but he'll be back. They'll get it done.
Josh, I think the big question I have for you is, are you going to watch the Chiefs this year?
Yeah, I am. I'm back on the Chiefs wagon. I agree with what you guys are saying. This is what I said last week. I think Chris Jones is just another one of those guys who's like, I don't like to go to training camp. I'm in good shape. I'll be ready to play. I'm just going to hold out until I don't have to do it, and then it'll be like the Neil Smith situation. It'll be like, I'm ready. I'm going to start. You're not going to bench me. So, especially if we sign a deal, so you just paid me all this money, I'm going to play. So what your hope is, though, is that he's not out of shape. And with defensive linemen, big guys like that, it's easier for them to fall out of game shape. And that's usually what these camps can help them do, is get back in the flow of things. But I'm sure he'll be fine. And I wouldn't worry too much about it. I'd be more concerned about Pacheco being healthy enough to play when the season starts, because I think he's going to be very important to this offense and give them an extra dimension that they realized they had last year towards the end.
Hey, how about the biggest non-story of the week? Travis Kelce in a little shoving match.
2 of them.
With a rookie.
2 of them.
He had a little tete-a-tete with some guy on a Friday, and I think it was a rookie on Friday, and then got wrapped up by somebody yesterday and took a swing at him too. That's Kelce. And it's also training camp.
Yeah.
The New York Jets, I think, had a massive brawl in their training camp last week. It happens. That's part of the game. You got guys fighting for their jobs in hot weather. Hey, come on. Anything can happen.
It's not hot weather. It's hot weather.
Sweltering. What I think's funny is they basically wrap these guys in bubble wrap in training camp. Like you saw the helmet, the attachment to the helmet that Kelce had all those extra pads and everything on it. So, I mean, whatever.
You should play that way all the time.
A lot of testosterone going on in these training camps.
I'm commissioner. I make them play with those helmets all the time, and I switch the football to a Nerf.
Oh, man, that'd be so awesome.
Because you know what? I'd be the greatest quarterback ever. I would be.
As long as it's
They wouldn't,
they
wouldn't talk about Patrick Mahomes anymore. They talk about Joe Westen.
And you'd never get a concussion either.
No. Yeah. How fantastic would that be? Be great. We could all go. We could all be stars in it. Sky Moore is slotted into the third wide receiver spot right now. Do you think this is the year that he breaks out for the Chiefs?
It better be.
Yeah, let's hope.
Like that.
He's on the bubble. He really is.
Who? I'll tell you the guy that I have my eye on with the Chiefs, and you guys can chip in and tell me somebody else. Richie James.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice pickup for them, and he could be. He's got us. I hate to say the TH words, and I won't. But he's got a similar body type to TH, and so I think that there's a possibility that they could do some things with him that they did with the former player.
Well, he has pro experience. He's a New York Giants product. Well, so is Kadarius Toney for that fact. But James can play. He doesn't have I think I'm right on this. His alma mater, I think, is Middle Tennessee State or something like that. So he doesn't have it's a major college. But in terms of huge collegiate background, no, he doesn't have that. But he's a guy who can come on. He has a lot of physical talent. And if he can stay healthy, yes, I think he would be a major addition to the receiving corps. They do have already a pretty doggone good receiving corps, but still, do you have that one game breaker like you did with the young man who is now mouthing off quite a bit in Miami and getting himself in all sorts of trouble and who will remain unnamed? But no, you don't have anybody with that kind of skill level other than Toney. And I'm not sure he fits that category either. But Richie James could fit in there quite well.
Do you see – I mean, he has to have a bigger year for the Chiefs than what he had last year, and that's Valdez-Scantling. I mean, he has to have a bigger year for them.
I'm not a big fan of Valdez-Scantling.
The thing that I found interesting about him last year was he seemed to be such an afterthought. But then in the playoffs, when a couple of guys went down, he came up big.
Well, yeah, he had to. Smith-Schuster was not getting the job done as he was expected to. And here you have Valdez-Scantling who comes in, and he was given that role of perhaps being the leader on the receiving corps. But he isn't this year. I don't think he's quite as in tune as the other guy.
Who's the leader there then? That's tough to say.
Travis
Kelce is Travis Kelce.
Well, I mean, as far as the receivers go.
Travis Kelce.
Okay. All right. Well, kind of interesting. I've heard some grumblings that maybe he lines up a little bit in the slot this year, and that they use a tight end with him.
They do
use a
have
two tight end set
to do that with.
Yeah,
it's possible. Sure,
They probably have the best. I mean, they've got the best tight end in football. But then the guys that play behind him all seem to come in and just add little bits.
Mm-hmm. And it helps when, so much attention goes to Kelce. Those guys don't have to be Travis Kelce level. They can be solid. And the defenses, they can't double everybody. So,
well, his skills are undeniable, but you also have to say something about the scheme because that has to be part of it too. When we come back, we'll tell you what we're watching on TV tonight. Give you a hint. It will be in Baltimore. Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave.
You're listening to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, part of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network. Back to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, a proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
If you missed out on our Chiefs Happy Hour, Mike has posted pictures and video. You can find them at our website, 1047thecave.com. Check it out. It was a great time that we had. We missed you. We wished you'd been there with us. Maybe next year. Daniel Hughes going to be back in town. He's going to come into town for the trophy.
Yeah, that will be sometime in the second week in August, I believe it is. It's part of the rally that my old TV station is putting on. So that'll be very nice to see the Lombardi Trophy.
Yeah, that's really cool that it's coming to Springfield. Does not look like the Cardinals play the Cubs again for the rest of the season.
This is the final game.
Yeah, that's kind of unusual with this balanced schedule. So, Ned, what's on TV for you today?
I think that one. I think if I watch any baseball, it'll be the Cardinals-Cubs this afternoon. Of course, they have the mandatory chores that have to be done.
Gonna mow the yard today?
Well, maybe. Depends on. It just depends on a lot of things.
What's it depend on? I mean, you can't do that. You can't just say.
Depends on what kind of motivation Ned Reynolds has for getting the mower.
What motivates you to mow?
Cooler weather, number one. Although I'm a big fan of hot weather, as you guys know, but there's a certain level at my age that you better watch out. That's part of it, and then how seriously the grass needs to be mowed.
Yeah,
we haven't had a whole lot of rain.
Yeah, I was going to say, my grass is all dead.
Yep.
My yard is almost all dirt at this point.
Yeah. What about you, Alec?
Oh, probably catch some of the baseball. I don't know. I'm not too motivated to watch at this point. I will always be tracking and rooting and interested, but it's a bad product on the TV. I can only watch us go down by 5 runs in 4 innings so many times before I want to move on and do something different with my day.
If you ever decide you want to be a Cubs fan, we'll accept you.
Nah, I'll never jump off the bandwagon. I'm a Cardinal for life, but I also, your time's precious, and, watching losing baseball is not very fun to me.
Well, Ned wanted to know if the Cardinals played the Cubs anymore the rest of this year, and we were looking at the schedule, and let me tell you, they don't have a very fun schedule for the rest of the season.
The Royals and the A's are in there.
Yes, but they get the Twins, who are division leader next, Colorado, and then they get Tampa Bay, Oakland, New York. Who knows what they're going to look like? Pittsburgh, they're going to fight out for last place. Philly, San Diego, Pittsburgh, and then Atlanta, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Philly, Milwaukee, San Diego,
do they
Milwaukee,
play the
and
Orioles
Cincinnati.
in Baltimore? I think they do, don't they?
Yes,
I think both
they are
Tampa Bay and
they are
Baltimore
playing in
are
Baltimore.
on the road.
Watch those games. I'm just telling you guys, watch those games. I'm very impressed with the way Baltimore plays right now. I think they could be a real deal playoff team this year. I don't know if they're a World Series caliber team, but I think they definitely could be in the playoffs. What about you, Josh? What are you watching?
You know what? I'm going to watch that baseball game tonight, just for you.
Yankees.
And I'm going to root for your Yankees, just for you.
Please. Well, you could watch cornhole, or you could watch
No, that's okay.
or a competitive mowing league. I've seen that those are big right now.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I'm not knocking anybody that mows their lawn extremely well, but competitive mowing league?
I don't get it.
What's the determining factor? How good your
how
lawn,
beautiful it looks.
Aesthetic.
I guess the aesthetic is graded, maybe,
or how long it takes, or how much sweat you
Look at
pour
that
for it?
grid pattern you got in your yard there.
Saw that somewhere like at Martha's Vineyard or the Hamptons or something like that people are spending an upwards of $500,000 on their lawn a year because it's become such a competitive thing to have the best lawn in the neighborhood.
That is because they can afford it if they're living out there.
That's true. That's very true. But I don't know if I would invest my millions into the lawn in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, me either.
Ask my wife; she'll tell you.
You've
I
got to
don't.
have a signature for your name.
Yep. Thanks, guys. We'll see you. We'll see. Well, at least some of you next week. Josh will be out. Alec hopefully will be back. He's going to check out a Cardinals game. Ned, you and I will be here. That's for sure. We'll see if we can't wrangle somebody else to be in here next
We
Sunday.
want to
with us.
serve, though, as a preview because not next week, but the following week, we are on at 10 in the morning.
That's right. We've got football. That's right. It's football season. It's Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave. Thanks to Corbin Campbell, Brian Tyndall, Mike the Intern, and Nick Fury. We'll see you guys next week.